goodness. Good evening. It is a first ever show tonight. Bridge Sky here, flying solo. I'm by myself. Not really. I know that there are some folks out there listening, hopefully. So I do this every week, but I encourage you to interact, ask questions, share comments, give support, because tonight I really would like it. In my own space right now, my own head, and just that's a I don't know. So tonight is going to be a little different. It is the full moon. It's the hunter's moon, by the way. And full moons in astrology is like the energetic high point of the moon's like monthly journey through the zodiac. I don't know if you're into that kind of stuff, but I found this little reading because I find if you go outside right now, it's this awesome orangey full moon out there. Okay, I wanted everyone to listen to what the hunter's moon is. So let's see. It says full moons. Let's see. Are often offer us a sense of illumination and can make our feelings swell. Because situations in our lives naturally come to climaxes or conclusions under these lunations. They're great for letting go of things and releasing any energy that has been bogging you down. And when it comes to the October full moon, it's time to let go of relationships or beliefs or habits that are holding you back from being, the person that you want to be in your own life, the leader in your own life, and really getting what you want. And I thought, you know what, that is perfect. And, I'll be honest, I did not write down anything. I have not prepared anything. I am sharing my experience, strength, and hope story. Okay? Now, I'm nervous. I've done this many, many times in many different platforms. I've gone and spoke in treatment centers. I've spoke on other podcasts. There's a virtual boss group out there that they had me share my story. It was wonderful. I actually went to the Basilica. I shared 5 minutes there, okay? You know what? I find it's, if you are out there and you know what I'm talking about, just sharing your story, it's something you don't foresee yourself doing. Yeah, that was me. Trust me. Like, not even 4 years ago, I remember this woman, Pam, that came out. And on the fly, their main speaker that was supposed to share their story, couldn't. And she walks in and they're like, hey, we need someone. Can you do it? And she just did it, which was mind blowing, and her story was so amazing. And I remember sitting in my car on the way home, thinking I will never be able to do that. And here I am, seat of my pants, winging it. I did have a guest planned. They could do it, they couldn't do it. But by the time I got my post out, I realized, nope, it's just gonna be me. So here we go. I'm gonna share my personal experience, strength, and hope story. Now, if this is your first time listening to K.I.S.S Recovery 101, oh great, don't make no judgments. This is your first impression. But this show is about recovery. All different paths of recovery, all different communities of recovery, how you get into recovery, how you're doing in recovery, or what, anyone outside of recovery, what this beautiful community is. And K.I.S.S is my favorite acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. So I found myself not being successful for a very long time in any support groups and meetings and programs because I made everything so complicated. I overthought everything and I just wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly or right. And I ended up way over complicating everything, including my life. So I find that these Sundays are so beneficial to me, mostly, really, because I find comfort in breaking down. There are so many complicated and so many different viewpoints and perceptions out there, and I like to break it down, anything that is discussed on this podcast, more simplified. And again, I am a complicated person, so it's never going to be that easy. But okay, so by the seat of my pants, I'm going to just go with the flow here. So a normal hour with this show is the first 15, 20 minutes is just a conversation of whatever topic. And I did get, if you read the post, I will speak on that. And then some fun alarms go off. So there's a segment that happens. A first alarm is, hey, check the comments, make sure you are interacting. That's the whole point of having a live show. Oh, I got a comment already. Facebook user says, watching from Ramsey. Hi, Bridge. Hi, Ramsey. Facebook user, shout out. Okay, beautiful. The nice thing is, I do like people to have their privacy. So I am a private person generally, believe it or not. And so I like to have that option. So Facebook, you have the option to stay anonymous. You don't have to go out. You could share and question and viewpoints, all that, and no one needs to see that. But there is YouTube. I do love the YouTubes, and that is an open public platform. Because here's where it's at. I feel like it is so important for everyone to share their story. I've heard so many people say, but my story wasn't even that big a deal. Like, nothing really bad happened to me, or like, I haven't been, in recovery very long. I don't know if I should share. I'll tell you, especially going into the treatment centers, I found that I could see the rooms. The people that were more new into the program and sharing their story had the most impact on that room. Those people, I was those people sitting on the other side of treatment, and I felt like it was easier to connect with those people. And here's the best part. You're sharing your experience, your lived experience, what you went through, your strength, okay? So what it was like is your experience. Your strength is what happened, right? So these newer people that were sharing their story, it just happened recently. Whatever their quote unquote rock bottom was, or whatever their moment of desperation, or whatever it was that finally said to them, I need to take these steps and move forward and change, because nothing changes if nothing changes. And I don't want to be like this anymore. That was me. And hope. And that's the best part, is it brings hope. I've heard so many stories. I've shared my story so many times. Well, not so open and publicly, let me tell you. But I'm finally in a place where I am an open book, and I feel like I have nothing to hide. I do live in this lovely thing called freedom. It still brings me a little anxiety, but I'm okay with it. But what I posted, and I found that is really wonderful. And this is the thing, I like to go hear other people's stories, because I can always connect in one way or another. And, there's so many people that feel like they didn't have enough of a story. There's thousands, millions of you like that. Trust me. It's nice to hear when you don't even know where this disease came. You don't even know where this, part of yourself came from, because it didn't maybe come till later in life, or nobody else in the family has it. So I'm telling you, your story matters. And I hear so many stories, and it just reassures me that I am not alone, and you are all not alone. And yep, I'm definitely rambling because I don't really want to get into it, but I do. So here we go. And then, so normally we have the segment, which is called the hot seat, which I'll get that alarm. And guess what? If you guys have any questions for me, you get 3. Feel free to ask. But I had a fire just before tonight. Me, my roommate, and my bestie Andrea and Sarah. We had, with the kiddos, s'mores. We celebrated the full moon. And there's this Burn After Reading book. Oh my gosh. So we just picked 3 questions out of that book and shared our stuffs. And let me tell you, it was wonderful. And burned it. So no one ever has to really ever read that. But the nice thing is, too, I feel like, this is going to be hot and heavy no matter what. But I'll still play the sound effects, and we'll still follow protocol, and I will keep this to an hour, let me tell you. And then the last segment, definitely have to do that. Especially with, I don't know how this is going to go, but live Facebook memes, my favorite part of the show. Listeners, you get to see the memes throughout the week that for whatever reason, I screenshot that, I liked it, it hit me, and I want to share it with you. And yes, like at Facebook, I'm here by myself, but please interact. If you like it, if you thought it was funny, if you thought it was inspirational, if it hit you a different way, I want to know. I mean, there's more comments. Oh, I'm already feeling better. Okay, My anxiety is going down a little bit. It says, "You go, Bridge." Facebook user says, "It's great that you give others uh, have courage." Oh, thank you. And hashtag all stories matter. Yes, absolutely. And oh, hi, brother. Bahada. Oh, Bahada's on. Okay, guys, here we go. Running through it. So I'm going to just start with a clip of myself. Yeah, I told you this is going to be a weird one. It's just me here. A clip of myself. I walked in to hear somebody else speak. And turns out it was a male speaker, so they needed a 5-minute female speaker. Of course, the person in front of me was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." But guess who can? This person behind me, and that was me. So on the fly, I had to share 5 minutes, and so obviously that gave me a little relief because I knew it wasn't going to be my story. But I got to share. I just decided to share where I was at. So I'm going to play that little clip for you, and then we're going to get into the show. Okay, so here it goes. I, I, it's, well, let's see. Yeah, it was roughly, I actually did pretty good. I stuck to the 5 minutes. I think a lot of people don't. So here we go. SNL, Bridge S, Sharon, 5 minutes. And hopefully.
Tonight's 5-minute speaker is Bridge.
Hi, Bridge Recovery. So it's interesting because last week I was here to see my friend who was the main speaker, and we were here early to do service, and I got roped into doing the promises, and I did okay. And I was like, "Oh, maybe one day I should speak." And here I am looking at you. So forgive me, I get nervous, but 5 minutes I could do that. So I thought about where I'm at today. I got 2 years in December. Thank you. But let me tell you, there was 17 years that I struggled. And I think the biggest piece for me was I couldn't find connection. I felt like I'm really the only person that's this messed up, and nobody will really understand why I am the way I am because I don't even understand it. And I remember hearing the opposite to addiction is connection. And I listened to a lot of motivational videos and speakers, and I just try to listen. And Oprah, I just had this aha moment. She said, "You can't truly find connection with other people until you find connection with yourself." And well, I tie everything into recovery in this program, and I thought that's really accurate. That's what I'm so grateful for, is this program gave me this opportunity to constantly reflect on myself with people that are very much like me, but also just keeping me aware of the ever-changing world and the outside things that I used to easily let me isolate and hermit and hide from people. And I realized that, the first word and the first step is we. So for 17 years, I was trying to do it by myself. The steps, meetings, I didn't really lock in that all I was really seeking was connection. And it was step 5. I remember that moment. Oh, it makes me emotional. I couldn't truly even begin to connect with myself because I couldn't forgive myself. 17 years of a lot of regrets and mistakes and things I spent a lot of time trying to forget because I felt like I deserved to be punished. And so when I finally did step 5 for real, I remember, I wrote all the things down,
and I said them to my higher power. Like, my higher power knows what I did. I know what I did. Like, why do I gotta say it to another human being? So when I finally did that, over 2 years ago, I just remember my sponsor just looking at me with the same, she still loved me. I pictured in my head that she would immediately like look at me with disgust, and I thought everyone would think I was this horrible, awful human being. And so when she was like, "Oh, that's it. Okay, well, let's move on," I'm like, "What? That's it?" So for so long, I lived in my own fear, and I feel like, the two core emotions are love and fear. So whatever you're feeling, anger or scared or joy or happiness, those two core emotions are love and fear. And so when I'm angry about something, or I'm anxious about something, or I'm stressed about something, sometimes it's really hard, especially when I'm angry. Like, what am I scared of? I'm not scared of nothing. I realize it does always fall into that category, especially when I'm hurt. Initially I'm angry about it, but when I reflect and I do my step 10 nightly, I need that. I can really take an honest look at myself. And if I wake up in the morning and it's still heavy on my heart, I reach out to my family in recovery, because I know you won't judge me. And this is the only place that I can be my authentic self for real, and like feel really connected. Like every single person here, well, now it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm an open book, so be careful what you ask me. Might tell you everything and too much. But I'm not scared anymore. And so now it's such an honor to be of service and to sponsor other women in the program, because I know that feeling, and I love to give them that connection that I longed for and didn't have for so long. Because no matter what, I was taking and taking and taking from this program, and that's okay. When you need it, that's what it's for. But I finally surrendered. I finally crossed over. I finally live and love in the steps. So I give all over the place, because I finally can. And so I'm just grateful. It wasn't so bad. So see, I say yes. If fear's like, no, that means I have to say yes. So thank you.
Oh my goodness, that was me. I'm so glad that they record those, and for you can actually have the weekly speaker story sent to you, emailed to you, and so I'm so thankful, because it was a blur. I know I was talking about Oprah. I know that I was talking about connection, but honestly, I could not remember what I said, even though everyone's like, "Oh, you did really good." I did not feel like I did good. Okay, so let's talk about it. Fear. I talked a lot about fear. I definitely I spent most of my life living in fear, and I didn't even realize it. I think, especially, when I got married and I had children, I didn't realize how much fear was just holding me back from really believing in myself and believing that life was worth living. So, experience what it was like. I mean, I kind of had one of those rough starts. I was adopted. And oh, here we go. That just reminds me to interact. Oh, there's a nice. Let me read this whole paragraph. Let's see. Remember, your story can touch someone's heart without ever knowing it. It might be simple as talking about being someone who really did not have a problem growing up, that they just started to drink and like it, and then someone in recovery does not have to come from trauma or mental wellness. Yeah, that's true. It reminds us that it doesn't discriminate. And in a meeting, we speak once, who said, there was a speak once who said, I had a really good, loving family. Yes, I've heard that many times, which is not my story, but yes, many people had decent, wonderful, loving parents and growing up. And let's see, continue. Facebook user, thank you. Yes, I totally agree with that. Another Facebook user says, has great friends, great relationships with God. Once he used to just try it out. And something grabbed him like nothing had ever done before because he was not living a bad life and made him feel guilty for using. I'm just say we need to remember that it's extremely humbling to remember that all suffer, that this man lost so much of himself and found recovery, that recovery saved him. Yes! Oh, yes. Let's see. My sister, I'm in awe of what you shared. Bridget is not scared no more. Yes, you guys are wonderful. Okay. Well, I'm not going to it's called pitch a tent. Charlie was on the show, and we both talked about how it's really easy to pitch a tent in the experience part. So, what it was like. So, I did not grow up in a living home. I was adopted, and it always still to this day a little bit perturbs me, but it really upset me inside when people would say, because I was adopted with my twin brother. And the first reaction, of course, is, oh, that's so wonderful. You got to be adopted with your brother. And yes, I feel like there are so many beautiful adoptions that are meant to be and are fulfilling and loving and caring. And unfortunately, my situation, if I was to write a story, if submit a story, it would start with adopted doesn't mean wanted. And that pretty much sets the tone. I don't know. I guarantee my parents. I think I was in denial too because my parents were not alcoholics and addicts. Now, there's a lot of things that you could be have an addiction or obsession or an unhealthy. Okay, so my father definitely was a rageaholic. Okay, and I actually read about this. There's actually something that's released in your brain when you're in that height of rage, and there's a healthy anger and there's a healthy way to process it. But if you don't process it, unfortunately, he processed it and got it out on me and my brother every day. The foster kids, I remember seeing very awful things. Just children being picked up by their heads. I remember he twisted my brother's arm. He was punching it, trying to break it. I remember the only time he never hit my mom. Okay. So that was the interesting piece is, whatever frustrations or angers, I think that came out on me and my brother. And I remember the only time I used to get so frustrated with her because I felt like she always took his side. She always said, well, you know what makes him angry. And well, it's not that bad. You don't have black eyes, like I just remember questioning like why we were allowed to be treated this way. And she was a lot of times the instigator, wait till your father comes home. And but I learned really quickly that I needed to protect my brother and myself and my little sister. So, secrets kept us sick. And the only time my mom stepped in, I was 17 and I was graduating. I wouldn't have been 18, but I begged and pleaded, if I graduate, will you just please? They were very, 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 very controlling. I guarantee that was to keep making sure nobody found out what was going on. And I remember, I think he just got mad at me because I looked at him wrong. And he dragged me across the floor by my hair. And I remember him smashing my face, my head on the door, which also had a glass window. And I remember falling to the ground. And I woke up with my mom standing in between us. And she said, Michael, stop it, walk away, go away. And when I look back and I reflect back, I wonder, was she really protecting me? Or was she worried that the glass was going to break? But that was the only time. And so I escaped as quickly as I could out of the House of Horrors. My brother joined the Army. I, however, since I was 11 years old, stayed out of the house by working and going to school and working. And I did not have friends. I mean, I had a couple here and there, but I wasn't a social person. I didn't want anyone to find out about me. My dad would always say, you guys want to go back to foster care? Like, he would threaten. And so I learned really quickly to put a mask on and to smile and to say everything's okay when everything wasn't okay. So that was where, my experience as a child. And so my first drink, I followed the rules because I didn't want to have trouble. I didn't want, I just was so focused on making sure that I never had to be weak again. I never had to depend on anybody again. Unfortunately, though, that made it so that I didn't trust anybody again. And I had a lot of fear on what people actually were like versus what I saw, my parents do very well and put on this face of, oh, we're just the best parents. And it's really conflicting because they'd introduce us as, oh, these are the kids that we adopted my whole life. They were never like, these are our kids and we love them. Like, there was no I love yous in my house. There was no hugs or kisses. So I spent a lot of my whole life just wanting to feel accepted, just wanting to feel connection with anybody, and to feel love. And I never really knew or understood what love was. I met my soon-to-be husband very young. So my first drink was 21. I think it was just before I was 21. I was working my second job. I finally decided, yeah, I'll go out. Sure, I'll go out with my friends to this house party thing. And I remember that first drink. And oh my goodness, I felt it just go down my whole body. And it was this release. It was this release of myself. Like, I immediately didn't have to think about what everybody was thinking about me. I didn't have to worry about people finding anything out. I didn't worry about judgments. All of a sudden, I'm instantly like social and smart, and I'm clever. I'm funny. People are laughing. I'm talking. I feel pretty. Like, I'm pretty. What? So I ended the night with, like, it was, I threw up. I threw up all over the place. It wasn't pleasant, but that feeling of release and like this window of, wow, I can actually be, well, I didn't even know who I was, but just let my guard down a little bit with people. This is amazing. And that lasted all of 2 times, I think it was. But definitely let's see, I think it was officially a couple weeks. My third time drinking, second or third time, was not so well. Yeah, it was my third time. And it started at my apartment, drinking vodka or heavy liquor, and I blacked out. And I woke up in, well, I thought I was in jail. And let me tell you, detox, Ramsey County, 20 years ago was not like it is today. Okay, I was in cots, and I woke up with Pringles chips puke in my hair. The shocking thing, though, on my left arm was this 8-inch. There was 30 staples in my arm, and I did not know what happened. And I had to call people. And unfortunately, what happens is when I was drinking or using, I lost my truth, and anybody anywhere could tell me their version of what happened. And unfortunately, because I couldn't remember, I had to believe that truth. And so what I don't remember, but I was told that someone had called my sister, who then decided to bring my mother. And I think for whatever reason, when I moved away, I was free and I didn't look back. And when she appeared there, I think that really that definitely triggered something. And I guess I went in the bathroom. I came back out, and my arm was sliced open, and there was blood. And all I said was, "Now I can get some fucking help," which is crazy because I could never imagine myself even saying anything like that. I wouldn't want anybody to know my dark side or my past or history. So, yeah. Oh, there we go. Hot seat alarm. Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm on a hot seat. So, yes, it was not good. But shortly after, I cooled off. I started to, definitely socialize a lot more. I met my soon-to-be husband, and, 21 years old. We met. He proposed. Like, it seemed like a sure thing. This person, he was a leader amongst his group. He was very much similar to me, is that he was more quiet and mysterious. However, he did have an outgoing side, but I felt protected and safe with him. And so yeah, we got married really young. I had my first son, and I'll tell you that was definitely a moment when I really felt and understood what unconditional love means. And so it was beautiful. However, it did not let my brain did not want to forget the other feeling of that escape, that release. And so, I stopped, I was healthy and good for almost 2 years. I really was committed to having my son and being, completely bring him into this world in a good place. But it wasn't long, we were young. And so my husband at the time wanted to go out, and I couldn't. I was at home taking care of my son. I was very happy, but I started to notice that I was feeling empty. And so I started to fill that emptiness again, with what I do, worked. And though it was temporary, it was temporary till the next evening. And so, my other son came shortly after I stopped. So in reality, at 21, before I even realized what, support groups were and programs were, I went to a meeting in the basement, and it was a bunch of old guys, and they shared their stories, and I couldn't connect with anything, these lists of things they had done. I hadn't done any of that, for the most part. I was at home and drinking at home, and I hadn't had any consequences yet. But I know by the time my third child came, it was at the end. It was definitely a try to fix it, save it child. And when we realized very shortly after that it wasn't going to be fixed, I feel that was one of my biggest things I still struggle with, is failing. I failed. I'm a terrible, shitty person. I'm not enough. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve my children's love. And I definitely feel like that was one of my lowest points. So what happened? Well, I finally got a year, like an intentional year of the program. I was working with a sponsor. I started doing the program, my way. And so I started to feel confident, like, see, I don't have a problem. Like, if I intentionally want to stop, I drink because I want to. I don't drink because I have to. And I was in denial for a very long time. Okay, we're at 8:33. Okay, I'm doing okay. So I hadn't really understood. I know now, looking back, I stopped drinking for the birth of my son, to bring my son into this world. I stopped using drugs and everything to save my marriage. I think my lowest of low, my gift of desperation, my moment of worst case scenario. I'm jumping forward, because this is a long story. Like I said, someday I'll have to write it out. But after I had my fifth son, so divorced, met a new guy. New guy met me, clear, healthy person, at least a year. Had his other son, his first. He's like, he struggled too, and I could see him drink and hang out with his friends and be fine. And so I thought, I think I could do that. I could give this, like, I've done well. I think I could do it. And I tell you, it's progressive, and that groove in my brain will always be there. And so that didn't work out for many reasons. And after our second son was born, my lowest point, I had so many consequences. I remember walking into that meeting thinking, I have no consequences. None of those things could happen. And I'll tell you, all those things and then some happened. It was a mountain of losing jobs and losing, myself. I didn't care about, I had cars and I had things, but I lost my soul. And I really believed that I was a terrible person. And hearing so many times from people that weren't supportive around me tell me, how could you do that? How could you do this to your kids? Like, what's wrong with you? And I couldn't give them an answer because at the end of the day, when I couldn't stop for my children, I really did feel like I was a terrible person and I didn't belong here. And they would be better off without me. And so I made a choice to end it all so that my kids didn't have to suffer and see what a big failure their mom was. And luckily, I just remember my last minutes holding one of my sons and just accepting death. I was so lost in my shame that I decided it'd be better to die than to be a burden to anybody else, especially my children. I could sit here and tell you today, I'm thankful that that was found in enough time. The sitter came in, called the ambulance, and I woke up very angry in the hospital because I wasn't supposed to wake up. But I remember that moment coming home and my kids were gone. And I remembered realizing that I remember I couldn't put myself first. I couldn't put recovery first because that to me was selfish. I never had a family. I never understood as a child. I knew what it felt like to never be wanted, to be given away since birth, to be named over and over, different names like a puppy, and nobody ever accepting or loving or wanting me. And I was never going to do that for my children. They were always going to be first. And so I could not understand when people would say, no, you have to put yourself first. And I just thought that was too selfish. So when my kids were gone and I came home to that empty house, I was angry. And I'll tell you, it took me a few more weeks, but I was court ordered at that point to go to 30 meetings in 30 days. And I had the worst anxiety. You know, I wouldn't go to meetings because, oh, I'm late. I don't want everybody to look at me. I can't go to this meeting. I don't know anybody in here. I can't go. Well, when you're court ordered, it forced me to face that anxiety, that fear that I had. And I got to tell you, like that 30 days. And I had my first real spiritual experience awakening. So what happened, I just remember this group. I went to a totally different place where I knew nobody knew me. Nobody knew my reputation as the relapse queen. Oh, let me tell you. And this group, it was right before Christmas. So my date is December 19th, 2000, or December 20th, 2019. And this group, I remember, I was going to treatment full evenings. I worked full time, and I was still waiting to get into DBT treatment because I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do all the things. I'm going to choose to put this recovery thing. Well, now I don't have a choice. I'm going to put this recovery thing ahead because if I spent more than a few minutes, sometimes seconds, realizing that my kids weren't there, my whole reason for living, I couldn't make it. And I walked into this new group and I just shared that I was happy because which, was that first mass coming in. I'm happy because I got gift cards for people at work for me for Christmas. But guess what? I get to take these gift cards and I at least get to buy one present for each of my kids. And, I was emotional and I just said, I'm just so happy though. And I'm grateful. And you know what? This group, these amazing people who never met me, who never knew me, they gave me money. My own family never gave me money. My own friends never. I'm like, wait, what? No, why? I don't want this. Like, why are you giving this to me? I don't get it. And they're like, no, it's for you. Get your kids something or, whatever. It's Christmas coming up, because I realized this was the first Christmas I wasn't going to have with my kids and they weren't going to have it with me. And so I remember the next 3 days, just this overwhelming feeling of these people who don't even know me, love me, care about me. Why? And I just remember thinking, I remember those nights, those couple of nights after that like I didn't know if I could make it through the night. And all I had to remind myself is there's this group of people and I want them to have a reason that they cared and loved me, And so, yeah. So from there, I walked into rooms and I'll tell you, the only requirement is the desire. And so I didn't even realize how lost I was in my own denial. I wasn't even being honest with myself. And I remember saying, I have a desire. I have a true desire to have your desire, but I don't have a desire. And, I I remember thinking they're going to kick me out, because the only requirement is you got to have a desire. Well, I'm telling you, I don't have the desire, but I truly have a desire to have your desire. And of course, they didn't kick me out. And of course, they just lovingly looked at me without judgments. And I remember that being so freeing. And I'll tell you, I'm glad. I feel sorry for anybody who maybe knew me during that first 6 months or a year. I was a very angry person. But I was honest. I was finally, truly honest for the first time in my life. And I could break down those walls within myself, which led me to be able to finally forgive myself. And I started to build that strength. And I started to build real connections, real friendships. And a lot of those sisters in recovery I have today. And I just remember my sponsor. She was my fourth and now final. She just loved me. And she saw me go through the ring. Like, she saw me coming in and out, just a mess. And the fact that she was still willing to work with me, like, that's all I needed. I just needed people to believe and love me for just being me. And so where is this today with the hope? What it's like now is, like, I never expected. I'm telling you, 17 years I was in and out. I never really thought that I would sit here today and tell you I never want to drink again or use again. I never have to, no matter what. I don't need to. Because even when, let me tell you, lately too, things are very overwhelming and very hard. And like the stuff I'm going through right now with my own daughter and family, I don't know. I definitely know I wouldn't, I would have escaped. And now I could call, 10 people instantly and really talk about why I feel awful or what's going on. And I don't have to put up a shield or a mask. And I guess, I posted about it. Hope for me. I tell you, I'm not a perfect person. I'll never be that. Nobody will, right? It's progress. But every day I talk about it and every day I share about it. I am like instilling in myself the strength that I didn't even know I had. I couldn't even walk into a room because I didn't want people to look at me. And now, well, I still don't like people looking at me, but whatever. Now I have no reason to hide and no reason to lie, and especially to myself. And literally all it takes for me is I keep it simple. One day at a time, I focus my attention on that day, and in the moments, especially in conversations, so I feel like I have my inner child, right? I have my inner little girl. I know she's there when I want to cry. I know she's there when I'm really sad. And I feel like there's this saying of, you are your own worst enemy. That's me. And I see her too. That's my inner mean girl. But I realized the inner mean girl grew out of grew and came to protect my inner child. So when I'm being hard on myself, when I'm beating myself up and being mean to myself, that's my inner mean girl trying to, make sure I'm not weak and make sure that, my inner child doesn't have to feel that pain. And, recently I'm really working on a lot of trauma that I didn't even realize has been a part of my life my whole life. So now I can reason with my inner me girl too. And it's fantastic. And when I can't, I pick up the phone. I go to a meeting. I talk on a podcast, but I share it. And I'll tell you, those meetings, especially those key women meetings that I went to, and I said, I was raped. And I couldn't and didn't tell anybody that it happened, not once, but twice, because I was so disgusted with myself, because I let that happen. I blamed myself. When one woman came up to me right after and said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you shared that, Bridge. That happened to me too. It made me feel like I'm not disgusting. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's flip it around. So anyway, that was a really short version. You're welcome. But what I posted, I really wanted to point out too, that it stuck out to me because I definitely feel like you know, every person's story at any point of wherever you think you came from or don't, it it's a way to really not only free yourself, but bring people that matter and actually love you and really care about you, maybe just met you, into your life. I love it because Mike shared, you can't change the people in your life, but you could change the people in your life. Thank you. Like that is beautiful. And I remember, angry bridge, it was a good thing. And at that time, that was a healthy way to process my anger. But I had to set those clear boundaries. And I had to, instead of that excuse of, well, this is the only family that I have, or these are the only friends that like care about me. Yeah, right. Like I made new friends. Those people didn't really care about me because at the end of the day, they weren't there for me when I lost everything. And they always had something negative to say. They never had anything, not never, but there was many times I'd finally be feeling good. I'd finally feel like I'm doing something. And they had these just comments or, suggestions or opinions about how I wasn't doing it right. Or do you remember that time though when you did this? Or do you remember that time when, always had some reason to bring it to the conversation of, well, I was always a shitty person, and deep down, you're still a shitty person. No, thank you very much. No, I'm not. I am not a bad person. And I don't need you to believe that. And you can just go sit over there. And you know what? I'm going to go over here, have a fire with my besties, and we're going to go through this Burn It After Reading book. It's fantastic. But I did not have to have those people in my life. And I always had to tell myself, like, well, I don't want them to think I'm bad, and I don't want them to think I'm mean. And they would say that, like, I did all these things for you. That's why it's even hard for me to even accept kindness or gifts or just tokens of love from other people in my recovery community, because I've always learned that it seems like people only do something to get something or later throw it in your face, and why you owe them because they did these things for you. Why did I ask you? Anyway, I'm rambling. But what I like, the post I put in the post that I found was, the word hope is defined as a feeling of trust. When a person in recovery, reaches that ending point in their recovery and they cannot trust themselves anymore. I couldn't trust myself to just stop using. That kind of fear then seeps into all parts of our lives. And those shares at meetings, they're not meant to be, you hear about the drunkalogs or the war stories, and yes, I've heard many of those. But a share, especially, when it's authentic, and when you know that the person is being vulnerable, or when I'm being vulnerable, it should have, it should talk about that experience and that struggle. And, it says your experience includes time, when you were using, and that was my answer to life. And it says during your active using days, I was acting in a way that I thought was normal. And it is scientific facts that your brain, I have a love-hate relationship with my brain, because my brain is here. Its main purpose is to protect me, right? Well, unfortunately, my inner child and my inner me girl, they like to protect me for no reason. A lot of times, okay? And I remember, instantly I could talk myself out of something within minutes. And there's this great YouTube, Melanie or Mel, I can't remember her last name, but she shared this 5-second rule. So literally, if someone asks you to do something, like I just shared at the beginning of this podcast, you got to be a speaker, 5 minutes. Literally 5 seconds, in my head, I would say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yep, I'm going to do it. I say yes. Unless it's like, obviously it could be a safety thing, or, and even if it's something that I can't really for sure commit to because I know like down the road, I can always call back and change. But I always say yes, especially if I know it's inner me girl, protected by inner child. Like that was the only way I could really finally heal and grow and build genuine friendships and relationships. And the best relationship I have right now is with myself. I know I want to say that sounds like I'm full of myself, but Oprah explains it perfectly. She says, that's what it means That's why it's so important to put yourself and make sure your cup is full, right? And I still work on that. Make sure I gotta say no. I gotta set those boundaries. A lot of times in my head, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Because if I don't, I so many times will empty my cup out to everybody else and then I'm the one thirsty, right? So yes, I'm full of myself, but Oprah says it's more of an empowerment thing. Is I'm full, my glass is full, and it's running over so that I could share that with other people, and especially my ladies. I'm finally that person that can extend out my hand, and I can pull someone out of the darkness that I suffered through. So anyway, enough with the emotional stuffs. But I'll finish reading. It said, you know, during your active using days, you were acting in a way you thought was normal until you realized it wasn't normal anymore. And it took courage to decide to change. And that you did it. And I did. And so that's okay. That's the gist of my story. I do know I've committed to sharing my story a few months down the road. So anyway, guys, if you are a fan of that book that is referenced a lot, there's a 5th edition coming out. And right now you have until Halloween, October 31st. You can submit your story. I suggest that you do that. It was a story in the 4th edition that started Bob's Group. A Bob's Group that is very endearingly titled Bad Bobs. And by the way, I get so much flack on that name, but I always think it's Badass Bobs. Because guess what? That mom guilt thing, it never goes away. I mean, guilt, again, is a more healthy, it's a healthy emotion to process, right? It's way healthier than if you didn't feel guilt. You might be a sociopath. But making sure that I'm sharing that with people and the right people, mind you. Brene Brown goes on to a whole thing of there's a list of like 6 people you do not share your shame stories to. But anyway, if you happen to have a 4th edition, I'm just going to read this one little paragraph that helped me find the Bad Bobs Group, that helped me really release all those dark skeletons. Because I tell you, all the meetings in the world, unless you've been a mom who've had children in your life, maybe they've moved on or grown away, until I had that safe space to share those shame, dark spots in my heart, in my body is still there, but at least now I can fill them with the love and support of my sisters. So anyway, I just wanted to read this little part of my favorite story, Empty on the Inside, shout out. But this is what started it all for me. It said, her story, it says, it was too hard to be a parent, but I couldn't tell people that. They might think I was a bad mom. And I was a bad mom. I was a terrible mom. No, I didn't beat them, and of course, I told them I loved them. But the message that my kids got from me was, yes, I love you, now go away. They have to be practically invisible. They had to be practically invisible in their own home. I had absolutely nothing to give them emotionally. All they wanted was my love and attention, and alcoholism robbed me of the ability to give it. I was empty on the inside. And that hit me so hard because, yes, everyone's like, no, you're a good mom. You're such a good mom. And I was, yes, I made sure they ate. I made sure they did their homework and they got to school. But I was dead on the inside. And I look back and I was I was a zombie. Like I was doing all the motions, but I repeated that cycle that my parents, that I had in my home is I wasn't emotionally there present for my children. I wasn't connecting with them. And that's what we all as human beings need is true, genuine connections. And I don't beat myself up over that anymore. I finally forgave myself. And I do remember that moment in treatment. Yes, one of those people's counselors made me write a letter. And I wrote it all out, right? And she said, write all those things that you want to say to yourself. All those all those worst enemy things. What are you saying in your head? Write it all out right now. And I remember this awful letter that I wrote. I did not keep the letter. I wish I would have. But it said, you are a terrible mother. You're a terrible sister. You're a terrible friend. You couldn't be a wife. You couldn't be, all these things. You deserve what you got. You don't deserve your kids, blah, blah, blah. All these terrible things. And I remember the counselor saying, Bridge, you see all these things that you wrote to yourself? Yes, clearly. You have a daughter, don't you? Just think of somebody that you love. What if they're sitting in your shoes right now? What if they're going through treatment or they're trying to get help? And what would you say to her? What would you say to your daughter? And I said, she goes, would you say these things in this letter to her? I go, no, of course not. And it was that moment I pictured my daughter and all these terrible things. Of course I wouldn't say those to her. And she goes, well, what would you say to her? Well, I'd say, honey, I love you. How can you say these things to yourself? I will always be there for you no matter what. And we will get through this together. And, I want you to be able to tell me anything and anything you need, but I need you here. And, of course, you guys probably all saw this coming. I didn't, but she goes, then Bridge, why are you saying these things to yourself? Why are you saying these things to yourself? And it was like that moment, I realized I was wasting so much time shaming and blaming myself because I felt I deserved punishment and I didn't deserve to be forgiven and I didn't deserve love, And so I realized nothing's good, nothing good can come of that. And damn it, if I want my kids back, I want them to want to come home to me. I want to be that person that I love and respect and don't have to worry about anymore and feel safe with. And so that was the moment when I said, I'm forgiving myself. And anybody who tried to bring up my past or tries to shame me from my past, they could just stay in my past. It was great. Okay, that's the final wrap. So I know I left a lot out, and I guarantee when I get home immediately, I'm going to think, oh, why didn't I mention this? Why didn't I mention that? But yes, I encourage everybody. And, especially anybody, if you want me, I love coming to people's stories. It's like this beautiful opportunity to share in that vulnerability because that is true strength. And I love, I think I just went to somebody else's, finally shared their story. Yes, I won't name her name. I went to her story. I've known her over a year. I didn't even know certain parts. And I'll tell you, every time, if you do make this a habit, I've shared things all over the place, bits and pieces that I hear something new every time. I share something new every time. All right, that's a wrap on a piece of my experience, strength, and hope story. Again, I'm in a room by myself. I think it gives me much more comfort, knowing that there is people out in the virtual land, but also, knowing that the reason I do this podcast is the real, true depth reason is I want this part of myself, my children, when they're ready. I'm an open book. And let me tell you, we've had some good conversations, and they know that I'm there to answer questions, or, I'm there to take anything that they want to say to me. I welcome that at all capacities, but they're not ready yet. And I'm not going to pressure them. I remind them here and there. But unfortunately for me, I feel like there's this whole side of me they don't even know yet. And so if something ever happened to me, I want them to at least know this side of me. And again, along with that, all the hopes and inspiration that they could say, hey, Bob was pretty cool. She did get her shit together, and I got to witness that. So anyway, okay, so I do love the sound effects. We already did the hot seat. I don't need to play the fire sound, but let's go ahead. I'm going to run through these beeps really fast because guess what? It is just me, and I made sure they weren't too crazy. Hiding the banner. Here we go. Live Facebook beads. Let's see if I can do it in 5 minutes. Okay, we'll just go 5 minutes over. Bead number 1. Oh, sound effects. Okay, thank you again for putting up with me. Definitely next time I will have a guest here. And I could have had a guess at the last moment, but you know what? I decided I need to conquer this fear. I'm going to go ahead and do this thing alone. Okay, I don't think it was so bad. First meme. So if you could look at this, but if you can't, I'm going to describe it. There's a sign, okay? It's one of those older school signs you got to put up. Oh, I used to have to do these signs, individual letters to spell out something, and it says, if you're buying smart water for $4 a bottle, it's not working. Which is great because there's all the Fujis and the smart waters and this fancy waters and they're like $4. Like it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Okay, yeah, this is really lame to do this by myself. All right, I'll look at the comments later if y'all want to just go ahead and emoji it up, the reactions. Next one, meme number 2. Oh, I love Baby Yoda. I know that's not really Baby Yoda, but anyway. So there's Baby Yoda standing in like the middle of this really cool library, looking all wise, and at the top it says, how to politely tell someone they are stupid. And at the bottom it says, wisdom has been chasing you, but you have always been faster. Oh, that is true. Sorry, I forget that some of these memes I picked. That's great. That's a really great one. And you know, I don't try to ever be mean or call someone out, you know, unless they're, you know, they seem like they're making a point to be ignorant and just get up in my face. But for the most part, that's just the way they are. You know, I'm not going to openly be like, you know, you sounded dumb right there. It's nice to say, this was just a little further ahead. Keep going. Keep going. You can catch up. All right, meme number 3. It's a comic strip. So if you're looking at it, it looks like so there's 4 sections of this comic strip. And it's 2 characters. One's like a genie, and the other one's just a person. The person. Okay. It says, the regular person to the genie says, I wish I was worthy of love. And the second one shows, poof, it is done, said the genie. And then the person's like touching their chest and their stomach's like, nothing's changed. And the genie goes, correct. Oh, I don't know. I thought that was beautiful. And I realized, yes, that was the reality for me, and I think many people. And so many times it's so important, especially when you really start to build those relationships with people. Brene Brown has taught me, you know, accept the compliments, okay? In my head, I'm like, I want to question it. I want to say, what? What do you mean? But now in my head, Brene says, Bridge, accept the compliment. And so if you know me, sometimes I'll say, well, thank you, I accept your compliment. Because I don't know what otherwise my other side wants to say, oh, really? Are you sure? Like, I've never heard that. What do you mean? Okay, next meme. Ooh, this is a funny one. Okay, looks like some kind of news broadcasting person. And it says, rank your mental health status on a scale from, in quotes, lid flipped open, end quote, to, quotes again, I've lost my trash can, quote. Okay, so it's funny because it's a TV forecaster, and they have this list. It looks like the story headline says, trash can wind meter. Oh, and it's a scale on how windy it is outside. So the top one is the lowest but top at the scale says the lid flipped open. Then it goes to, whoop, it tipped over. Then it goes to, it's in the neighbor's yard. Then it's down the street. Whoa, and then it's, I've lost my trash can. This is fantastic. Whoa, I don't think it's ever been that windy for me in real life. But it has been, if you put it in a mental health status, yeah, that would be a fun code word. You know, a code phrase to friends. Yeah, I might start that. So you get a text from me that says, yeah, tipped over. That means I'm just starting to get a little, I need some check-in time. But if it says down the street or I've lost my trash can, that means swoop me up, take me somewhere, take me to a meeting because I'm not in a good place. Okay, next meme. It helps if where is it? Oh, there it is. Let's do the correct one. Oh, just words. It says, in quotes, we need to dispel the myth that empathy is walking in someone else's shoes. Rather than walking in your shoes, I need to learn how to listen to the story you tell about what it's like in your shoes and believe you, even when it doesn't match my experiences. That is beautiful. I loved that because, yes, empathy, I still feel like, especially if you're trying to even understand the difference between sympathy and empathy, empathy is really being able to at least conceptualize being walking through in that person's story, the things they felt. But again, I like this because nobody can ever really be in your shoes, right? So, definitely I listen, and I've learned very well now I don't need to fix anything. Most people don't want their shit fixed. They just want someone to listen. And honestly, some stuff that people have told me, I definitely, in the moment, I probably felt like, oh, I could, I'm not going to one up them, or I could connect to that level. But I've been so sometimes shocked that I just say what Renee says is, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't even know what to say. I'm not, I actually have this current dialogue going on with this trauma group that I'm in because they're totally new to the concept of sympathy versus empathy. And they don't understand, and I guess it's just their dialogue that they're used to, but I fucking hate I'm sorry's. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry that went on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to hear your I'm sorry's because for me, sorry is sympathy. I don't need you feeling sorry for me. I'm not looking for your pity, right? And it almost makes me feel more less than. So I don't do that. I personally make a choice. I never say, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry he did that to you or she did that to you. I'm sorry that, this went on. I don't say that because I had no part of it, right? I don't want to be, I feel like trying to be more just true to myself. Like, I feel like it's full of shit if I say I'm sorry for something that I had no part of, right? And I think that's why I get annoyed is when people are telling me I'm sorry. It's frustrating because I immediately have to go, well, you don't need to be sorry because you had nothing to do with it. It wasn't your fault, I say that to, like, cashiers all the time. Oh, I'm so sorry. Why are you saying sorry to me? Like, it's obviously this, technical problem here. It's not your fault, But I get that because I was the I'm sorry person. But yeah, like, I just simply say, I can't believe that happened. I'm, for, to be truthful, I feel flattered and just touched that someone shares a piece of their story because I know how hard that is, right? But the other side of it, I feel like, I could go on a tangent. I mean, to be truthful, like, here's my pro tip. So how I got over the I'm sorry's, I used to say I'm sorry's all the time. It was just I literally would trip on the person and I'd tell them I'm sorry. Like, they didn't even trip me. I'm sorry I tripped over you. Like, it was so silly. It was like a natural instinct for everything. It was really annoying. I know it was very annoying. But I can't remember if it was my therapist or somebody in my group, but they said just to start getting my brain out of doing that, always end it with, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. So every time I would say, I'm sorry, I would then chime in with, I'm not sorry. And at first it felt very mean and awkward. But I tell you, eventually, like I used to do it with my sister, my roommate, we would do it together because we were both I'm sorry people. It became this funny joke. So I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Just doing this very dramatic voice, like dramatic, accentualized voice. But yeah, still to this day, it'll trickle out here and there. But really, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. That's what it is. And it got me over that. Anyway, moving on. Words again. Here we go. The ones who notice the storms in your eyes, the silence in your voice, and the heaviness in your heart are the ones you need to let in. Yes. And I can tell you right now, those were those people in that room, in the rooms I still go to, in my life now, that they can tell when I'm off. They can feel my energy. Even when I'm smiling, even when I'm just happy-go-lucky, they can tell that my aura and my energy is off. And I love that. It's also annoying, though, I gotta tell you, and I would never tell them to not call me out, but it is annoying. Well, I'll just say that, even when my kids are like, are you really tired? No, I'm not. Why would you say that? Oh, basically because I look like shit? Okay. Sorry, I didn't put on my makeup. I've been blowing my nose all morning. I didn't feel like putting on eyeshadow and mascara, but okay. But anyway, but definitely I could tell, I hate the hi, how are you question. I always throw it back. Well, how are you? Because I know, especially those people I've just been or whatever, just being nice. They're just being nice. But most people don't want to know how I am. And those couple of people, Matt, John, Sarah, Jessica, Andrea, those people that will pick up the phone or text me. Says, hey, I've noticed you haven't been around. Or, hey, I noticed. I mean, they could just catch, like they get my vibes sometimes. Something's on Facebook. They hit me up, and I will happily tell them what's going on. I'm fine. Fucked up, irrational, neurotic, and emotional. Okay, here we go. 4 more people. Wanted. It's just words. It's wanted. Someone to, this is funny. Someone to hand feed me Doritos so my fingers don't get orange. No weirdos, please. This is great. What a great wanted ad. In itself, it's hypocritical. Yes, I just want someone to hand feed me Doritos because we all know the cheesy, who wants the cheesy stuff on your hands, fingers. Just feed me the Doritos so I don't get the orange crap on my fingertips. So no weirdos. I'm not calling myself out as a weirdo, but I'm anti-weirdo. I'm sorry, I found that one hilarious. It's not funny alone in my room here. Okay, next one. Oh, again, just words. Words of wisdom. Let's see. Sobriety is not a one-time choice. It's a decision that we have to make over and over and over again. Yes. And, oh my gosh, it's already night 12. Okay. Well, I'm going to definitely do a podcast on this concept because this is deeper. I finally have been able to sit down and process why I get so upset when someone reuses, when someone, especially that I'm working with, or just someone that I'm, connected with, has a relapse or a reuse. It's not that I'm judging them, but why do I get so upset? Why am I so hurt about it? And here's the interesting thing is I've realized it's because I'm in this thing. I'm doing this thing day by day by day. Some days it's easy. Some days it's not, to be in this recovery and making that choice every day. It is hard sometimes. And, I got my peoples. And the nice thing is we're doing it together. We're living life without that escape, without that mask. And that's why I feel like that's a deeper level of life you can't get to unless you've been through it, right? And so when one of us, my brothers or sisters, falls off, a part of me feels like, I'm alone again. Like, I'm alone doing this thing every day by myself, So it's selfish. And yet it's not in this capacity of oh, how could they, I understand. I lost count of how many times, but just man, I'm still alone. I'm still alone. I thought we were doing this thing together. Recovery. Okay. Second to last. Oh, I thought this was fitting because it's a moon. And I know I've shared this before, but this is one of my favorite ones. It's a beautiful picture of a full moon. And it says, everyone wants to be someone's sun to light up their life. But why not be someone's moon to brighten in the darkest hour? I love that one. That's what it is. When you share your story, you might not know it, but you could be that little bit of light, that little bit of hope at someone's darkest point. And last and final, always on a positive note. Oh, yeah, this quote is by Pablo Picasso. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Oh, that's so beautiful. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for putting up with me and listening to me. And yeah, next week, definitely we'll have a guest. I'm even thinking about doing some multiple guests, just some backup plans. And you know what? If we all show up at the same time, it's just the more the merrier. Can't go wrong. But the solo show, next time, if it happens again, I'm hoping it'll be more intentional. Okay? All right, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Get that beautiful fire weather in while you can. And I hope you all have a great week. And I will, I'll check in with you in a week And I'm trying to keep talking till I find the end music. Ooh, I see it. There we go. All right, love you, my beautiful family. Have a good one. Good night. And I get right now. I feel that moon energy. I'm sending it out your way. I hope you feel that energy. Good vibes coming your way. Hearts.